Come to business questions. Can the Leader of the House?
Will the Leader of the House give us the forthcoming business?
Leader of the House.
I shall. The business for the week commencing the 16th of December includes Monday the 16th of December, second reading of the Water Special Measures Bill, Lords. Tuesday the 17th of December, Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the National Insurance Contributions Secondary Class 1 Contributions Bill. Wednesday the 18th of December, Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the Lords Spiritual Women Act 2015 Extension Bill, Lords, followed by Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the Financial Assistance to Ukraine Bill, followed by remaining stages of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and International Committee of the Red Cross Status Bill, Lords. Thursday the 19th of December, general debate on matters to be raised before the forthcoming adjournment. The subject for this debate was determined by the Backbench Business Committee. The House will rise for the Christmas recess at the conclusion of business on Thursday the 19th of December and return on Monday the 6th of January 2025. The provisional business for the week commencing the 6th of January will include Monday the 6th of January, business to be determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Further business will be announced in the usual way.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. And what a marvellous time of year it is when I see the Christmas tree in New Palace Yard and the trilling sounds of the Parliamentary Choir and the Salvation Army Choir to boot. But on a slightly more sober note, you will recall, Mr. Speaker, the story of the government so far has been one of early scandal, a first reset, a delayed budget, and now what we can expect to be a delayed spending review, and we must hope at some point they will get round to actually making policy. And I'm afraid this week has brought further confirmation of the disastrous effects of the November budget. You will recall that the Institute for Fiscal Studies predicted at the time that the rise in national insurance would hit lower wage and more labour-intensive parts of the economy hardest. They also predicted that the Chancellor may need to raise taxes again soon. Chancellor's reaction, as you will recall, was to say in terms to the CBI, and I quote, "I'm really clear, I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes." And we will see how long that promise lasts. But only this week, the Financial Times reported that hiring has fallen more sharply in the UK than in other major economies over the past year, including the US, France, Germany, Canada and Australia. Luckily, however, we now have the government's new plan for change. I think the whole House should welcome the fact that the government now has a plan, only 14 years and 7 months after it first started in opposition, and that its plan is to change direction. But I would describe the plan for change as like a fine, fat Herefordshire beef cow that has been inadequately fed with the Reform Party's favourite anti-methane feed supplement, Bayo. It is a beast full of nutrition, but with a certain amount of unnecessary flatulence. A lot of media commentators have had fun with the government's blizzard of to-do lists, including its 6 first steps, 6 milestones, 5 national missions and 3 foundations. But I'm afraid they've missed the whole Christmas spirit of the thing. All we need now are policy announcements on turtle doves and partridges in pear trees to complete its new initiatives Advent calendar. Mr. Speaker, I jest, but I come not to bury Caesar in this case, but to praise him, because I'm not going to indulge in the easy mockery of the commentariat, Mr. Speaker. Oh no, on the contrary, I can report genuine signs of reality, something very rarely seen in a document from this government, breaking through in the plan for change. The Prime Minister says, and I quote, "In 2010, the incoming government inherited public finances in desperate need of repair." He's absolutely right. The public finances in 2010 were in desperate need of repair. The Prime Minister says we need a profound cultural shift away from a declinist mentality which has become comfortable with failure. And again, I think he's absolutely right. And finally, and most notably, he says we cannot tax our way to prosperity or spend our way to better public services. Not only that, the government has sensibly dropped its commitment to 100% clean energy by 2030, as we have called for on these benches, and I specifically highlighted only a couple of weeks ago. Mr. Speaker, the plan for change is a revolutionary gospel indeed. Honest about the poor performance of the last Labour government, realistic in not seeking to blame governments for wider global events, seeking to adopt a longer-term approach and to recognise the need to limit tax and spending. All we can hope now is that someone spreads this revolutionary gospel in the Christmas spirit to the rest of the government. But I also have various concerns about the plan for change that I'd like to put in front of the House, if I may. It barely mentions the crucial short-term issue and long-term issue, I should say, of defence, highlighted once again this week by events in Syria, or the vital long-term issue of social care, which all parties concede has been inadequately handled over the last 20 years. These are, or 30 years, I should say, these are extraordinary omissions in what purports to be an inclusive long-term reset for the government. And there are more fundamental questions to be addressed. The idea of omission is a fashionable one in policy circles, but it implies a total commitment to the goal. How will this be reconciled with the civil services obligation and the Prime Minister's new efficiency czar to demonstrate short-term value for money? How will all this be reconciled with the government's intense desire to campaign aggressively against those it sees as its political enemies, rather than to recruit them soberly to a political consensus that could provide a sustainable basis for these missions? I'd be very interested to know what the Leader of the House thinks on these issues and how they will shape her approach to the conduct of future business in this House.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I start first of all by saying how appalled I am, and I'm sure the whole House is, on the details that have emerged in the murder of Sarah Sharif. And can I say, on behalf of the government, that nothing is more important than keeping children safe. We are committed to further reform of children's social care and much stronger safeguards for children being taken into home education. This is long overdue, and further details will be announced imminently. Can I take this opportunity to congratulate the new chair of the Liaison Committee as well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend, the member for Hackney South and Shoreditch, and I know the Prime Minister is very much looking forward to his regular appearances before it. And can I also commend my honourable friend, the member for North Northumberland, on his appointment as the UK Special Envoy for Freedom of Religion or Belief. And I'm sure he's looking forward to his very frequent and very regular meetings with the honourable member for Strangford. I also want to remind the House that that the Modernisation Committee's call for views ends next Monday. We've had a huge interest in this agenda from members, old and new, and I'd encourage everyone to submit their ideas. Mr. Speaker, I thought we might have had a little bit more Christmas cheer from the honourable gentleman, but it's another rather strange and confused contribution. Perhaps he can work on his Christmas jokes a bit more ahead of next week's business questions. So let me share some merry news instead, Mr. Speaker. We are making the big changes people voted for, rebuilding Britain and fixing the mess that they left us, reshaping the state and society to put ordinary people at the front of the queue. Over half our King's Speech programme is progressing through Parliament. The biggest change for workers in a generation, giving security and dignity at work. For renters too, putting powers back in the hands so that they can get secure, quality tenancies they deserve. Switching on Great British Energy for lower bills and energy security. Bringing rail services back into public ownership, already delivering better reliability. Taking on water bosses to clean up our waterways. And reforming our planning laws to build more affordable homes. He doesn't like it, but nobody can deny that these are the big necessary changes in service of ordinary people, rooted in our values. And yes, we have a plan for change, and he asks about it, and we are delivering it. Because the country voted for change, Mr. Speaker. They voted to change from their government. They voted to change from their record. They voted to improve their living standards. They voted to change the NHS. And they voted because they wanted this country to be fixed. I mean, he raises defence and social care spending. Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, that's his best Christmas joke yet so far, because their record on that is woeful, Mr. Speaker, and we won't take any lectures from them, I'm afraid, on that. Because the truth is, we're 6 weeks in to the new leader of the opposition's tenure, and their strategy for opposition is as clear as mud. They seem to have learnt nothing. They've got no new ideas. They disown their record one day and defend it the next. Perhaps instead of his ridiculous, tired commentary, they could reflect and apologise for the mess that they left and ensure the country gets the change it deserves.
Can I just say, the leader quite rightly mentioned a live case. I hope nobody else would add to that, because it is a case that's in the courts at the moment. Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next year, Bradford District will take on the honour of City of Culture. My constituency will be hosting events celebrating local artists and our industrial heritage. Would my right honourable friend join me in wishing Bradford 2025 well, and would she consider granting time for a debate on the contribution of northern cities to our British culture?
Yeah. Well, can I join her in congratulating Bradford as the City of Culture? She's absolutely right to point out that how much of our British culture is rooted in our northern cities, like Bradford, but of course Manchester and others too, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure Chorley and elsewhere too. So I'm sure this would make a great topic for a debate.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson, Marie Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, the Institute for Fiscal Studies warned us that local authorities' special educational needs budget is currently at their educational needs deficit is currently at £3.3 billion, and without proper reform, it could rise to £8 billion within 3 years. Even at £3.3 billion, it's clear that the government's budget announcement of £1 billion is less than a third of what local authorities need for SEND just to allow them to stand still. Meanwhile, the £740 million of capital funding announced recently is, according to analysis by Special Needs Jungle, less than the average of similar funding over the last 3 years. And besides, it's capital funding, meaning buildings and equipment. I'm not saying that isn't welcome, but what's the point in more classrooms if we don't have the teachers, teaching assistants and support staff to fill them? And then reports online suggest that the Education Secretary this week told teaching unions that schools would have to find money for their underwhelming 2.8% pay increase from efficiency savings in existing budgets. I understand, she suggested, and, well, I'm going to check my notes because it seems a little optimistic, that schools could pay for it by switching their bank and energy providers. Mr. Speaker, will the Leader of the House ask the Education Secretary to come to the House as a matter of urgency to lay out what her plans are for education and special educational needs? So far, nothing the government has announced is going to make things better, and there are children's lives at stake.
I thank her for raising the issue of special educational needs, and she's absolutely right. The crisis that was left in SEND support in our schools was really appalling, one of the terrible legacies of the party opposite. And demand is higher than ever. It is one of the big issues facing our education sector. That's why in the budget we announced, as she rightly points out, £1 billion extra. This is the biggest uplift that SEND has received in many years. But of course, this won't solve everything overnight. Of course it won't. This is a down payment on the work that we will be doing and we are doing to reform SEND and to get the money and resources in that is absolutely vital to our education sector. And she raises the issue of pay for teachers as well. I'm really proud that this government, one of the first acts of this government when it came into office was to agree to the independent pay review recommendations for teachers, giving them the pay rise that they've long deserved, and this government will continue to support our education sector in all its needs.
Natasha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week I was contacted by Year 8 students from Ark Blake Academy in my constituency. They wrote to me to raise concerns about food security both globally and locally. They wanted to highlight the impact of conflict on food access, the unacceptable rise of food banks in our country, and the shocking rise of children skipping lunch at schools because their families can't afford it. So can the Leader of the House allow time for a debate on what this government can do to improve access to food both here and at home? And can she join me in thanking the pupils from Blake for raising these really important issues?
Leader.
Well, I'm delighted to join her in congratulating the pupils from her constituency in raising the issues of food poverty, especially at this time of year when the needs of people in relation to food poverty, but also Christmas poverty, Christmas presents and everything else is so stark, and is something that as MPs we all experience. So I'm sure this would make a very good topic for a debate, and I'm sure we'll be shortly hearing from the Chair of the Backbench Business Committee.
Chair of the Backbench Committee, Bob Blackman.
Your wishes, my command. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In addition to the business that the Leader has announced, on Tuesday the 7th of January, with your permission, in Westminster Hall there'll be a debate on pay gaps in the workplace. And on Thursday the 9th of January, provided that date is provided to us, there'll be two debates, one on seizing frozen Russian assets to fund Ukraine, and the second debate will be on the impact of food and diet on obesity, quite appropriate after the Christmas festivities. Can I urge colleagues, if they wish to participate in the debate next week, to apply to you, Mr. Speaker, to be put on the Speaker's list, so we know how many people are likely to want to speak in the pre-recess adjournment debate. Now, Mr. Speaker, 2 years ago, on a cross-party basis, it was agreed to abolish the Vagrancy Act of 1824. The only thing that wasn't done was a commencement date for that. What it needs is a statutory instrument or further primary legislation to remove this act from the statute book once and for all. It appears there's a dispute between the Home Office and Housing, Communities and Local Government, and neither can seem to resolve this. So could the Leader of the House arrange for a statement to be made on when this will be introduced, so that those people that are homeless and on the streets don't face being arrested, but actually will be assisted?
Leader.
Well, can I first of all thank him for announcing some of the forthcoming debates. I feel that after Christmas I will probably be very much in need of attending the obesity debate, although I do a mean Christmas gravy, which I am already looking forward to, Mr. Speaker. But he raises a very important issue of the commencement of the Vagrancy Act, which he did so much to bring about the changes that are needed there, and I commend him for all the work that he did. I will ensure that the department has heard his question today and that an update is brought to him and indeed this House at the earliest opportunity.
Blair McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the widespread revulsion at the violent crackdown on peaceful protesters in Georgia, I wonder if she might make time for a debate on this. And in that debate, we might be able to discuss the fact that Imedi TV, the main propaganda arm of that brutal government, operates and is directed from the UK through a company called Hunwell Partners. And I wonder whether she might agree that in that debate we could discuss whether it's time for an NCA investigation into those operations from this country for the direction of pro-Russian propaganda and the incitement to violence against those peaceful protesters.
Leader.
Well, can I thank him for raising this very important issue? The government continues to call on the Georgian government to halt their move away from democratic norms and isolation from the Western partners, and we continue to condemn the excessive use of force against protesters and journalists. And he raised a very important issue about holding companies operating in this area. And I think I heard the Chair of the Backbench Business Committee highlighting a debate which I think would be a very good place for him to raise this matter.
Just to help the House, I'm aiming to run this to 11:30 so we can all help each other to get through. A good example being Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During the last Parliament, I initiated a Westminster Hall debate about the growing evidence that bright LED lights on vehicles was resulting in more road traffic accidents. I know that the leader could tell me that I could initiate yet another debate, but even better would be if you could arrange for the Minister to make a statement on this about the evidence that the Department of Transport are collecting.
Leader.
Well, it's a very important issue about LED lights and their impact in road traffic accidents, and I will indeed ensure he gets a full response from the Minister or they come forward to the House.
Sarah Champ.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In our manifesto, Labour committed to phasing out animal testing, a goal that is not only widely supported by the public, but is also critical for advancing scientific innovation. However, this achievement requires the government to work cross-departmental. So will the Leader of the House allow time to debate this issue so that Parliament can explore how to turn this commitment into a concrete action? And will she join me in hoping for a cruelty-free Christmas?
Well, I do join her in hoping for a cruelty-free Christmas, and she raises important issues. We have a number of manifesto commitments in this area, and she will know they're not currently in the legislative programme for this session, but I am aware of strength of feeling, and I'm sure that things will be brought forward in the usual way.
Blair.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last week, the government stated they would move away from safety valve agreements in relation to SEND, which have seen many local authorities across the country enter into short-term funding deals with the Department for Education. While this is welcome news, it's left those already in existing arrangements, including my own local authority of South Gloucestershire, worried about the future. So will the Leader of the House agree to give us a debate in government time on the nature of these changes, how we can ensure existing arrangements are fair, and to discuss how we can ensure that all children with special education needs and disabilities get the quality of education they deserve?
Well, she yet again raises an important issue, and I think what this government is trying to do is ensure that we have early intervention, we have the power in the hands of local authorities and others to take action in these areas, and we are imminently bringing forward the Children Wellbeing Bill, which will tackle some of these issues at core as well.
Andy MacNae.
Thank you, Speaker. Small businesses are at the heart of our local economies and crucial to our ambition to deliver sustained growth. So last weekend it was great to meet so many inspiring small businesses during the Small Business Weekend in Rossendale and Darwen. And I was also privileged to attend the Rossendale Business Awards. It was a great celebration of entrepreneurial and community spirit. And so would you join me in congratulating the Business Award winners, and bear with me, there were quite a few. Baker Museum, Baha Accessories, DOG Grooming, The Chubby Duck, Rossendale Radio, Caravan Sons, Solo Assist, Kelsey Bennett, BU Lifestyle, Design Heart, Whitworth Leisure CIC, Olive Branch, the Ashcroft Danceworks, Unscripted Fashion...
Order. We're not allowed... No, one of us is sitting down and I'm not. Can I just say we're not meant to do a phone list of different businesses all around. I think, in fairness to the Leader of the House, she's got a real flavour of how important Rossendale and Darwen is. Leader.
Well, I am very well aware, Mr Speaker, of how important the small businesses are in Rossendale and Darwen, and I have, over the years, enjoyed many a nice cup of tea and cake, which I thought he was going to get round to inviting me along to one, which I'm sure I will do soon.
Sir John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. You may not be aware that Vodafone franchises across the country, including my constituency, have launched a High Court action as that company, Vodafone, have cut remuneration at no notice and with no justification, despite the fact they benefited during the pandemic from government payments to support struggling franchises. Can we therefore have a debate on how these corporate, soulless, heartless kinds of businesses are costing livelihoods, oblivious of the consequences of what they do, for those struggling franchises will close and the workers will be sacked?
Leader.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about the case in his constituency, and he has taken this opportunity to raise it on the floor of the House. He will know that this government is committed to take on the vested interests in this country and put ordinary people and communities back at the front of the queue, but I will ensure that he gets a proper reply on that matter.
Bayo, Alaba.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On Friday, I had the joy of visiting a couple of local businesses and organisations, the Southend Business Partnership and the Southend Art Collective. What is apparent from these meetings is the will and certainly the talent in Southend, East and Rochford to reanimate the city. However, Mr Speaker, in Southend, East and Rochford, like many constituencies, we struggle with the loss of grassroots sport, music venues, leisure facilities and empty high street shops. So will the Leader of the House join me in recognising the hard work of both collectives and grant a debate on the importance of extracurricular activities in low socio-economic areas?
Leader.
Well, can I thank him for raising that important matter? And he's right to highlight the importance of grassroots sports, culture and others to our local communities and our high streets. He'll be aware we've got a curriculum review at the moment. We're also ensuring that there is funds into grassroots sports in England, and he might want to be aware that the government's plans around devolution and supporting our high streets will be announced imminently to this House.
John Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Both the Scotland Office and the Northern Ireland Office tell me that the Northern Ireland Enhanced Investment Zone is still alive and is still in play and has not fallen into the fictitious £22 billion black hole. However, there is no indication of when it's actually going to be delivered. I wonder then, given the multiple agencies involved in all this, if we might have some way of getting some clarity on this, and if we perhaps might address the question of devolve and forget as operated by this government, which is so damaging to both Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Leader.
Well, can I thank him for that? He might want to raise this matter at Northern Ireland questions when we return, but in the meantime I will ensure the Minister's heard his question.
Helena Dollymore.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Queensway Gate Road in my constituency is known as the Road to Nowhere because it has been left unfinished for over a decade. So my constituents in Hastings and Rye were delighted that the Labour government confirmed over £2.5 million to finish the road. However, Conservative-run East Sussex County Council has let the works overrun for months and months, leaving residents and businesses stuck in delays. Local businesses have lost millions. Will the Leader of the House join me in calling on East Sussex County Council to get the road finished?
Leader.
Well, she raises such an important matter for her constituency, and I will indeed join her in encouraging the council to get on and make sure that the road to nowhere will finally get somewhere.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. There is a dunkelflaut across the UK and the whole of Europe, meaning there's no wind and therefore reduced power generation, highlighting the importance of alternative sources such as nuclear. So could the Leader of their House ask the Secretary of State for Energy to update the House on the programme, on the extension of the programme and expansion of the programme for SMRs to ensure we've got alternative power sources?
Leader.
Well, he's absolutely right that nuclear will play a really important part in our ambitions to being a clean energy superpower by 2030, a target I'm sure he will join me in welcoming, and he will have the opportunity, Mr Speaker, I can assure him very soon, of questioning the Secretary of State on this matter further.
Liz Twist.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. During UK Parliament Week, I met students at the Orchard EHN unit in Ledgate in my constituency, which focuses on the emotional and educational needs of Key Stage 4 pupils. They told me they're concerned about long waiting lists for CAMS and other mental health support to address the needs of young people and allow them to do well in their exams. They feel lucky to have focused support, but would like that to be available to other people. They have asked me to ask if we can have a debate in government time to explore urgent and strategic actions to ensure that the mental health needs of all young people are met.
Leader.
Well, I really enjoy hearing members' inputs from their visits during Parliament Week, Mr Speaker, which I know you did many of as well. And I was actually on News Round this week about Parliament Week. I've never had more cut through, I can say that. But she absolutely, really important issue about CAMS and mental health support for our young people, and that's why we're committed to get more mental health support into our schools, and I will ensure that we consider this as a topic for debate.
Wendy Morton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I've noticed recently an increase in casework from pensioners with regards to accessing the West Midlands Pension Service. It's a pension scheme which appears to be run jointly by local government and DWP, administered out of Wolverhampton Council. I wondered if the Leader would assist in trying to get those government departments to come together and try and unlock what is becoming a very, very slow process that's affecting a number of us in the West Midlands.
There we are. Leader.
Well, I'm happy to look into that issue for her. As she knows, we've had a big drive to make sure that pensioners who are eligible for pension credit get it, and we've also put in extra resources into the household budget for local authorities. But she highlights an issue about them working together better to make sure that support gets to those who need it most, and I will absolutely take up her question today.
Amanda Hyde.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The ICB in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland are due to consider a paper today on the removal of prescription support for people who require gluten-free products who are celiac. meaning people in North West Leicestershire as well as the wider area of Leicestershire will no longer have prescription services for these products from January next year, which means around 50% of trusts in England are now in that position. I personally know how expensive it is to manage a restrictive diet, and while gluten-free products are becoming more widely available, they are still extraordinarily expensive. Would the Leader of the House offer government time to discuss this prescription postcode lottery for people who are celiac?
Leader.
Well, can I thank her for raising that important issue? As she knows, the national prescribing position remains in England that gluten-free bread and mixes are provided to everybody. But as she says, the local integrated care boards are now responsible for arranging the provision of that in their areas. I will ensure that the Health Secretary has heard her question today and gives her a full reply.
Robin Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dalton Mills in Keighley, which has previously been the film set for Peaky Blinders and the like, has unfortunately experienced continuous arson attacks, with the most damaging fire being back in March 2022, with £50 million of damage being caused, and the most recent arson attack only being literally 2 days ago. This is causing deep concern to many constituents across Keighley because the site is dangerous, it is derelict, and we need to make sure that the site is secured because it is owned by the Crown Estate. So can we have a debate in government time on the responsibility of landowners, including the Crown Estate, to ensure that derelict sites that are dangerous are properly secure?
Well, the situation he describes in Keighley with the film set there is deeply concerning, and I will ensure that he gets a full reply on that. We will shortly be having the Crown Estates Bill coming back to this House, which might be an opportunity for you to raise it during the passage of that bill.
The Jess.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dementia is the leading cause of death in the United Kingdom, and in my own constituency of Wolverhampton West, it is estimated that nearly 30% of the dementia cases are undiagnosed. Would the Leader of the House please agree to make time for a debate in this House to give dementia the political priority it deserves, so that there is earlier diagnosis with timely social, medical and nursing care for sufferers, and also mental health and other support being provided to carers, and furthermore, Mr. Speaker, so that positive steps are taken to find a cure for dementia?
Leader.
Well, I think we can all relate to the question that he raises and the blight of dementia and the suffering of those who have it and on their families as well. And the government is committed to tackling these issues, and it has been raised a number of times in business questions. So I'm sure it would make a very popular debate, backbench business debate, were he to apply for one.
Lisa Smart.
Very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. Trains between Rose Hill and Manchester Piccadilly are timetabled to run every 30 minutes in the morning. Yet this morning only one made it between 7 and 9, and that was only 2 carriages. This lack of service is not unusual. It happens once or twice a week, and since the breakdown of discussions between the conductors and the already nationalised Northern, there have been no services on a Sunday. This is massively impacting my constituents. They're having to reject job offers because they can't have faith that they can get to work on time. Could the Leader of the House please allocate some government time for a discussion and a debate about services on the Hope Valley line?
Leader.
Well, I'm all too well aware of the challenges on the Northern network that she describes, and the issues around Sundays and all of those issues around cancellations and capacity. I do know that there are ongoing discussions, and this is absolutely at the top of the agenda for the Secretary of State, and I will ensure that she comes to this House as soon as she has any further information to share.
Catherine Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Sussex Circus Fish and Chip Bar in Chaddeston for its 50 years of frying, and its owner, Ronnie, who was 2 weeks old when his parents opened it? With 1 in 7 of us choosing to have fish and chips for Christmas dinner, it would be a timely debate to discuss the enduring contribution of chippies to our national culture, cuisine and as focal points in our community, and allow time for us to discuss how we can support and thank these high street food businesses serving us at this time of year.
Cold at this rate. Leader.
Well, I think we can all agree that we're all a bit partial to some lovely fish and chips, and Ronnie's Sussex Circus Fish Bar sounds like one such place we should all be visiting, so can I congratulate them as well. She might want to raise these issues in the adjournment debate we've got next Thursday, which is a great opportunity for people to raise issues to do with Christmas. Invitations to local eateries, always welcome as well, Mr Speaker, and I'm sure we'll have a good attendance.
Greg Smith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I draw attention to my entry in the Register of Interest. I'm sure the Leader of the House will agree with me that we should always acknowledge and congratulate great British sporting success stories, and I'm sure every member of the House was glued to their television on Sunday to watch McLaren secure their first Constructors' Championship since 1998. Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating McLaren, that great British icon, on their success? And to make up for the apparent lack of acknowledgement from DCMS, can we have a debate on the value of motorsport to the British economy?
Leader.
Well, I'd rather not talk about sport today, Mr Speaker, as a Manchester City fan. But anyway, I will certainly join him in congratulating McLaren. My son is a big Formula One fan. He's got all the McLaren gear, so it doesn't go unnoticed in my house. It is a great British icon, and on behalf of the government, I want to congratulate them.
Mike Reader.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last week, the University of Northampton published its economic impact assessment that showed for every £1 of income it gets, it generates £4 in my local economy, and 54% of graduates in health and the education sectors graduate into a full-time job, compared to 38% nationally. Will the Speaker and Leader of the House join me in recognising the importance of universities like mine to local economies, and also support me in making time asking for government time to support fair funding for universities like the University of Northampton?
Leader.
Well, can I join him in congratulating the University of Northampton as well? It sounds like they've got a really strong track record, and he will know that we have inherited a really difficult situation when it comes to higher education funding in this country, but the Secretary of State for Education is really focused on this matter, and I know she will keep the House updated on her plans.
John.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would the Leader of the House allow time for a debate so we can pay tribute to our young sporting heroes? I'm sure all members would have many examples, but 22-year-old cyclist Oscar Onley from Kelso was recently awarded Male Rider of the Year by Scottish Cycling after becoming the first Scottish-developed rider to start the Tour de France for 31 years. Would the Leader of the House use this opportunity to congratulate Oscar on behalf of us all?
Leader.
Well, absolutely. Can I join him in congratulating Oscar Olney on his fantastic achievement, really breaking some ground there, cycling in the Tour de France as developed cyclist.
Paul Wall.
Mr Speaker, Pippa, Britain's first ever illegal vape sniffer dog, won a special hero award this week from the Chartered Standard Trading Institute this week. Springer Spaniel Pippa was honoured along with Rochdale Trading Standards and police for their work seizing vapes targeted at children by organised crime groups. Would the Leader join me in congratulating Pippa and the Rochdale team for their dogged detective work?
Leader.
Now that's a Christmas joke, a good joke there, Mr Speaker. That's how to tell him, I say. Absolutely join him in congratulating Pippa and her very positive work. Maybe, never know. And perhaps they want to come to Manchester Central and clear up some of the vapes we've got there.
Better message.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. In Sawtry, in my constituency of Huntingdon, Frida and John Grace have created a Christmas display at their home to rival the bright lights of Regent Street. They've overcome the damage from Storm Bert, rebuilt the display and opened their home for all to enjoy, raising £267 on opening night alone. The lights will be on every afternoon until 9 p.m. until the 1st of January, should anyone wish to look at them. I look at the Honourable Member for Peterborough if you find yourself passing by. But will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Frida and John for their fantastic effort in raising money for charity and spreading some Christmas cheer? And could she make time in the parliamentary schedule to celebrate fundraisers in all our constituencies, especially during this Christmas period?
Well, can I join him in congratulating and thanking Frida and John for their very generous activities and all their fundraising work? And he's absolutely right. I think in this House we should all come together as often as we can and congratulate and celebrate our constituents for the great work they do in fundraising.
Lynn Stewart.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On Saturday I'll be going to the New Market Street Winter Festival in Ayr in my constituency of Ayr, Carrick and Cumnock. Music, food and dancing will help us get into the Christmas spirit, whilst allowing me to get some of my shopping sorted. While my right honourable friend is welcome to join me. I appreciate the journey to Scotland and possibly the weather may feel like going to the North Pole. However, will she join me in welcoming festive events like this and supporting small businesses? And will the House find time for a debate in supporting our high streets?
Leader.
Well, I absolutely will join her in congratulating Newmarket St Winter Festival, Street Winter Festival, which sounds like a really great place to go and get some last-minute Christmas shopping. I'm very behind on my Christmas shopping this year, so maybe I will be quicker going up to Scotland to do it this time because I'm so behind.
Sir Ashley Fox.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Many of my constituents in Bridgewater are worried at the risk that flooding poses to their homes, businesses and farms. They're concerned that the Environment Agency fails to adequately dredge our rivers and maintain our streams and brooks, reens and culverts. So can I ask the Leader of the House to find time for a debate on the Environment Agency and flood prevention?
Leader.
Well, can I thank him for that? And this is obviously a growing issue as we see the effects of climate change in many of our communities. He will know that the government's flood resilience task force is at work trying to coordinate many of these issues. We have been forthcoming with statements and updates to the House on our flood resilience, and I will ensure that remains the case.
Phil Brettle.
Mr Speaker, will the Leader of the House join me in celebrating the recent opening of 2 permanent banking hubs in my constituency, one in Horwich and one in Westbourne, both of which I had the immense pleasure of opening? And will she also join me in thanking the hard-working staff, including Jackie, Rubina and Gullum in Horwich and Siraj in Westbourne, who provide a vital service to communities and businesses across the Bolton West constituency?
Yeah.
Well, it's very refreshing change in these sessions to hear about a banking hub opening and more access to cash in a local community like his constituency, instead of hearing about the closure. So I will very much join him in congratulating them being opened.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'd very much like to congratulate the Prime Minister and indeed the Secretary of State on their decision to appoint a new Special Envoy on freedom of religion or belief. The Right Honourable Lady knows that after numerous attempts we finally have one, the Honourable Member for North Northumbria. However, could the Leader of the House outline what the specific objectives and expected outcomes of this appointment are, and if the position is enshrined in law, and how this position will contribute to advancing the government's priorities on both the national and international level, ever mindful of Proverbs 31 verses 8 and 9, open your mouth for the voices, for the rights of all who are destitute, open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the right of the poor and the needy. And I know the member from North Northumbria will do just that.
So we're catching up on.
Well, can I thank him for welcoming the appointment of the member for North Northumberland as the UK Special Envoy for freedom of religion or belief. And I'm only sorry it wasn't the honourable gentleman himself, but I know that he will play a keen and active role in ensuring that the member for North Northumberland carries out his role properly, and that he is there as an advocate for the government to ensuring that the many issues that he raises in this House week after week are taken up by the government, and that we have that special envoy role.
Chris Vance.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Since the closure of the Harrow start in 2019, Harrow doesn't have a town-wide newspaper, a printed newspaper, although the online platform, Your Harrow, does have a number of articles that go out town-wide. Can I ask for a debate in government time about the future of printed media, and in particular the current legislation that requires planning legislation to be printed in printed media rather than being on online platforms?
Yeah.
Leader.
Well, can I join him, in raising this important matter? The role of local newspapers, printed local newspapers, as well as online facilities, is absolutely vital to sharing factual and correct information about what's happening in our local communities in the age of social media and mis and disinformation. And we've seen that time and time and again recently. And I know the Secretary of State for Culture is very committed to these issues, and I will ensure that he and the House are updated.
Paul Davies.
Rural communities often feel neglected regarding crime. House of Commons library research shows a 32% rise in rural crime since 2011, compared to 24% in urban areas. This includes 130,000 more reported offences and 30,000 additional cases of criminal damage and arson. These figures highlight... I'll come to the question, Mr Speaker. Can I ask the Leader of the House for a debate on rural crime in government's time?
There we are, Leader.
Well, can I thank him for raising this very important topic, because tackling rural crime is really important to this government, and we're committed to safeguarding our rural communities. I think were he to apply for a debate on this matter, it would be something that would be very popular.
Polly Billington.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My right honourable friend, I'm sure, will share my concern about the evidence presented by the Imperial College's National Patient Safety Report today. For the first time in 10 years, more women are dying during or shortly after pregnancy, and more babies are dying within 28 days of being born. This is a particular concern in East Thanet, where our maternity services had to be taken into special measures only a few years ago. Can she talk to her colleagues in the Department of Health to see if they will be able to present a plan to this House to address this worrying situation?
Leader.
Well, like her, I was sort of shocked to hear of these statistics this morning, and what a damning indictment of our healthcare system in this country, that we're now in this situation where more children are dying at a young age than they have in recent times. And I will certainly ensure that the Health Secretary has heard her question today and that she is given a full response.
Andrew Pegs.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Is one of the jewels in the crown of our city. Now, just 2 years ago, we had a hydrotherapy pool and an indoor pool, as well as the Lido. But due to the reckless behaviour of the previous Conservative administration, the hydrotherapy pool was bulldozed and the indoor pool closed. The Lido is now at risk in future years. Can I ask my honourable friend if she will ensure the government recognises the vital role of swimming for leisure, sport and well-being, and if she'll join me in congratulating the thousands of residents, including myself, who are rallying behind keeping our Lidos safe?
Leader.
Well, absolutely. I want to join him in saying the importance of our indoor and outdoor pools, and the importance of swimming to a healthy society, to our agenda for preventative public health as well. It's absolutely vital that we keep local Lidos like his alive, and I know he'll also have a very strong ally in the Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero, who's very partial to an outdoor swim as well.
Look, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I have an investor in my constituency who's interested in regenerating a site to create jobs and growth in a community that really needs it, but the owner of the site seems unwilling to engage either with the local authority or with my office, which has contacted them 7 times since August. What avenues can I take through Parliament to bring this organisation to the table and get this project off the ground?
Leader.
Well, I'm always very sorry to hear of local investors and businesses or other agencies in honourable members' constituencies who won't engage with the Member of Parliament. He has named them here today in Parliament, and I hope that will make them more forthcoming to his request for a meeting.
Morris.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm frequently contacted by biodiversity, nature and climate groups across the Exham constituency who are encouraged by our commitment to climate, nature and biodiversity. They're concerned somewhat, though, about the timescale by which the government will ratify the Global Oceans Treaty. So I wondered if the Leader of the House could perhaps give some clarity on the timeline for that.
Leader.
Well, he'll know that this government is very committed to the Global Oceans Treaty, and we are an international leader on climate and nature, and the Foreign Secretary is very committed to make sure that we ratify the treaty, and I will ensure that an update is given to the House in due course.
Sam Rushworth.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Parties with members elected to this place should uphold British values of tolerance and respect, but many constituents have contacted me to express alarm that local officers of the Reform Party in County Durham are harassing and smearing local charities and town councillors and using their social media platform to promote hatred, Islamophobia and misogyny. No other party in this place would accept such behaviour. They would chuck them out and make sure they don't stand as candidates. And I wonder if she could give me some advice on what we can do to make sure that there is increased civility in public life.
Leader.
Well, I'm incredibly sorry and disappointed to hear of the harassment that is being perpetrated against elected officials in his constituency, and the whole House will have heard his calls today. And I hope that the leadership of Reform and other parties that may be carrying out such harassment have heard his question today and take action against these thugs, because we need to defend democracy and defend our elected representatives at all costs.
Crichton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very grateful. I don't know if the Leader of the House has been caught up on the wild swimming trend, which we just call swimming in the sea in the Western Isles. One of my constituents has taken that to the limit. Colin S. MacLeod, charity fundraiser extraordinaire, has been swimming a mile length of the beach every day this year and will have raised £8,000 for the RNLI this Saturday when he completes his 1,000-mile Land's End to Shetland charity swim. Would the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Colin, find time for a debate on open water swimming, and perhaps join Colin for a dip?
There we are, Leader.
Yeah. Well, I do love a swim in the sea, actually, Mr. Speaker, although I'm not sure anybody's ready to really see me in my swimsuit any day soon, but I will certainly join him in congratulating Colin from swimming a mile a day and completing his 1,000 miles. What a great achievement, and raising all the money that he is for the RNLI, which is such an important cause.
Lloyd Hatton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, recent BBC News analysis found that burning household rubbish in waste incinerators is now the dirtiest way that the UK produces power. So can I ask the Leader of the House, when might the Minister come to this place and give an update about exactly how and when we move away from harmful incinerators? And will the government support my campaign to implement a moratorium to stop building new incinerators, both in South Dorset and nationwide?
Leader.
Well, this government is committed to developing a circular economy where we don't need things like waste incinerators, and he's absolutely right to raise this matter with me today. It's something that actually has been raised with me a number of times, so I'm sure that were he to apply for a debate on the use of waste incinerators, it'd be something that would be very well attended.
Lee Pitcher.
Mr. Speaker, last week I had the honour of witnessing the first flight into Doncaster Sheffield Airport since its closure in 2022. This was made possible not just because of the hard work of Doncaster Mayor Ros Jones and the whole team, but also because of 2XL, an aviation company that has maintained its base at the airport. Would my right honourable friend join me in celebrating this incredible achievement for Doncaster East and the Isle of Axholme?
Well, I absolutely will join him in that. He has been a dogged campaigner for Doncaster Airport, and I'm thrilled that he got to see the first flight going into Doncaster Airport in many years. And I also congratulate Mayor Ros Jones and 2XL for all the work that they're doing to ensure that this important airport in his constituency goes from strength to strength.
Jim Dixon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this year, Swanscombe and Greenhithe Town Council in my constituency applied for Round 4, Window 1 of the Community Ownership Fund for funding to refurbish Swanscombe Pavilion, which once was and could once again be a wonderful hub for our community, providing opportunities for people to engage in sport, culture and arts. They were told decision-making was put on hold for the general election and haven't yet received a yes or no from the government. Might the Leader of the House arrange for the relevant minister to make a statement to the House to give clarity on whether crucial community projects like Swanscombe Pavilion will receive the funding they so desperately need?
Leader.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that he's not had a response about Swanscombe Pavilion in his constituency. The vital role that these kind of hubs, culture, leisure facilities play in our local communities can't be underestimated, and I will absolutely ensure that he gets a ministerial response forthwith.
David Pinto-Tyczynski.
Mr. Speaker, leaseholders in Hendon constituency, in Colindale, in West Hendon, in Edgware, are getting a raw deal. The big property managing agent companies that maintain their developments have put up service charges this year by as much as 40%, but are all too often failing to provide an adequate service or even a basic explanation of why charges have gone up so much. It's got to stop. Will the Leader allow a debate in government time so that we can discuss regulating managing agents?
Well, absolutely, and I know from my own constituency what an absolutely sort of shocking scandal this is. He will know that the government is committed to full leasehold and common hold reform. In fact, the Minister is sitting next to me nodding his head rather, and we will be consulting next year on proposals to strengthen regulation of managing agents.
Stand back.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A constituent recently shared his experience of applying for his dream job in border force with me. Initially told he would be placed on a reserve list 3 months after completing the recruitment process. 6 months later, he was offered a role requiring him to relocate to England. He was informed 2 days later that, due to his past employment as a holiday rep, he would no longer be considered. Now, 5 months later, his case was flagged for review and he was told roles in Scotland would be available to him. Whilst he was recently recovering from cancer, he was chased for a response and re-engaged with the process, only to be told 2.5 years from applying he would no longer be considered. Will the Leader support me in requesting time to discuss recruitment practices for an increasingly important border force so that we don't deter enthusiastic, trained and empathetic young people from joining?
Leader.
Well, look, he's absolutely right. It's important that our border security force is equipped with the best, the brightest and the best who want to work with it, and I will ensure that the Home Secretary gives him a full response about this case.
It's Swallow.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On Friday, I attended the opening night of Panto at the fantastic South Hill Park Arts Centre. Oh, yes, I did, in Bracknell. And local arts venues like South Hill Park have suffered years of funding cuts under the previous government. Will my right honourable friend arrange for a debate on funding local arts centres? Yeah.
Well, he's behind me, Mr Speaker, definitely. But the importance of the Panto season cannot be underestimated for our local theatres. It's usually what funds them through the rest of the year, and he's absolutely right to raise the issue of local theatres and arts venues, and I'm sure it would make a great topic for debate.
Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome the debate later on LGBT veterans. My constituents, Martin Bell and David Kelsey, have been severely wronged by the ban on LGBT people serving in the military. Would the Leader of the House join me in the government in recognising the wrongs that they've suffered and welcome the steps to bring forward financial reparations?
The debate's next.
Well, I strongly welcome the debate and the announcements that we're having today on reparations and recognition for our LGBT veterans. Like him, I have constituents and others who were affected by this terrible practice over many, many years, and I'm delighted that we are today putting that right.
Alex Baker.
Mr Speaker, last week I visited the Ferns Primary Academy, who I'm pleased to say have had their termination warning removed because of their significantly improved Ofsted judgment. It's clear to me and stated by Ofsted that the school is determined that all pupils, including those with SEND needs, achieve their very best. Will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating the school on their progress, and can we have a debate about supporting our schools to be aspirational for every student?
Yeah.
Well, I'll certainly join her in congratulating the primary school in her constituency and their Ofsted rating that has now turned around. And she's right to highlight that we need to support schools in making sure that they support everybody, especially those with special educational needs, get the education they deserve.
Josh Newbury.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The recently proposed closure of a council-owned museum and theatre in Cannock Chase has shone a bright light on how much culture and heritage venues like those mean to communities like mine, and the challenges facing the arts and museums more broadly. Would the Leader join me in commending the campaigners fighting to save our museum and theatre? And would she make time for a debate on how we can safeguard and develop culture and heritage, particularly outside our big cities?
Leader.
Well, I think this is the fourth question I've had today, Mr Speaker, on the vital role that local culture and theatres play in our communities and keeping our high streets to be the vibrant centres that we want them to be. So I'm sure the chair of the Backbench Business Committee has heard these questions today, and I would advise everybody club together and get a good debate on this.
Andrew Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Grange Community Primary School in Winsford has just retained its status as a centre of excellence through the Inclusion Quality Mark. This award recognises the school's commitment to make sure that inclusion is a priority and that the educational and personal needs of every child, including those with SEND, are met through its curriculum. Will the Leader join me in congratulating everybody at the school on this fantastic achievement? And will she look to arrange a debate in government time on the importance of inclusive provision in mainstream schools?
Leader.
Well, I absolutely join him in congratulating Grange Community Nursery and Primary School in his constituency for their great work on inclusion and supporting children with special educational needs, a topic which we've had lots of discussion on this morning and I'm sure would make a great topic for debate.
Adam Jogi.
Speaker, 2 weeks ago today, after much anger and the worst stink possible, Wally's Quarry landfill site was closed by the Environment Agency. This is a victory for my constituents, all of us who live in Newcastle-under-Lyme. Notwithstanding any legal action and the loss of my voice, Miss Speaker, from talking about it for so much, will the leader join me in paying tribute to all those who campaigned so hard to finally get these cowboy operators closed down?
Leader. Well, can I congratulate him as well as those in his community for his dogged campaigning on...
Look, we've got to stop this. The honourable gentleman has just asked the question and come straight in front of me. Second time in these questions. Leader.
Well, can I congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Newcastle-under-Lyme, for his dogged campaigning to get this Wally's Quarry closed down in his constituency because of the actions of those who've been running it. He's raised it with me a number of times, and I'm sure that his constituents will be very grateful for the action that he's taken.
Joe Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My right honourable friend will be aware of speculation of certain high-profile individuals seeking to interfere in our politics with their money, and concerning examples from the last Parliament of opaque foreign funds finding their way here. Will the leader make time to debate and update our election laws to ensure foreign money stays out of our politics?
Leader.
Well, absolutely. He's right to raise this important matter, and he knows that it's clear that foreign donations to political parties in this country are not allowed, but the government does recognise the risk posed by malign actors who seek to interfere with and undermine our democratic processes, and I'm sure that the Secretary of State will want to continue to update the House on this important matter.
I think we did really well. We managed to do it with a minute over. Great. Let the front bench change over.